The Power of Pentecost. Many strange and peculiar teachings have become linked to the early accounts of Pentecost. In later times, the events of this day, when the Spirit of truth came to dwell with humanity, were confused with foolish outbursts of unchecked emotion. The primary task of this outpoured Spirit of truth is to teach people about the truths of the Father's love and the Son's mercy. These are the two divine qualities whose truth can be deeply understood, more than any other traits of the divine character. The Spirit of truth is chiefly concerned with revealing the Father's spiritual nature and the Son's moral character. Jesus revealed God to humanity. The Spirit of truth, descending into human hearts, reveals the Son of God to people. When a person produces the fruits of the Spirit in their life, they display the same good works Jesus did in his earthly life. While Jesus lived on earth as one personality, his indwelling Spirit now lives as the new teacher in the experience of every believer who responds to his truth and teaching. Many things that happen in a human lifetime are hard to grasp. They don't easily align with the idea that truth prevails and justice triumphs in this universe. At times, it seems slander. When lies, dishonesty, and unrighteousness hold sway, which does raise the question: does goodness, upheld by faith, ultimately triumph over evil, sin, and injustice? Yet Jesus' life and death stand as eternal proof that truth-working goodness, and the faith of a Spirit-led person will always be vindicated. At the cross, Jesus was mocked with the words, "Let's see if God will come to save him." It looked bleak on that day of crucifixion. But a glorious light shone on the morning of the resurrection. And it glowed even brighter and more joyfully. On the day of Pentecost, religions of pessimistic despair seek release from life's burdens, yearning for an end to existence and an endless slumber of rest. These are religions born of primitive fear and dread. But the religion of Jesus is a new gospel, proclaiming faith and confidence to struggling humanity, grounded in faith, hope, and love. Mortal life dealt Jesus harsh, cruel, and bitter blows, yet this man met those waves of despair with faith, courage, and an unshakable resolve to do his Father's will. Jesus faced life in all its terror, but he never used religion as an escape from it. The religion of Jesus doesn't seek to flee this life to enjoy the bliss awaiting in another existence. Instead, it provides the joy and peace of a spiritual existence that enriches and ennobles life on earth. His Spirit, poured out on all flesh, is a mighty force in the world, lifting and propelling humanity upward. This spiritual drive for progress is the most powerful force on earth. The truth-taught believer is the true progressive, militant soul on this planet. On the day of Pentecost, the religion of Jesus broke through all national limits and racial chains. It remains forever true: where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. On this day, the Spirit of truth became Jesus' personal gift to every mortal. This Spirit was given to equip believers to preach the gospel of the kingdom more effectively. Don't overlook the fact that the Spirit of truth was poured out on all sincere believers, not just the apostles. The 120 men and women gathered together received this new teacher, as did all honest-hearted people across the world. This new teacher was bestowed upon humanity, and every soul received him according to their love for truth and capacity to grasp and understand spiritual realities. At last, true religion was freed from the custody of priests and sacred classes, finding its real expression in the individual souls of people. The religion of Jesus is the path to the highest form of human civilization, creating personalities of profound spiritual caliber by placing their sanctity at the core. The arrival of the Spirit of truth on Pentecost made possible a religion that is neither radical nor conservative, neither old nor new, neither dominated by the elderly nor the young. The Spirit leads into all truth. It is the teacher of an expanding, ever-growing religion of endless progress and divine unfolding. This new teacher reveals to every truth seeker what was so divinely contained in the person and nature of Jesus. The manifestations tied to the bestowal of the new teacher, along with the acceptance of the preaching by people of various races and nations gathered in Jerusalem, point to the universality of Jesus' religion. The gospel of the kingdom was not to be identified with any one people or culture. This Pentecost bore witness to the Spirit's mighty effort to free Jesus' religion from the Jewish shackles it had inherited. Even after this demonstration of the Spirit's outpouring on all flesh, the apostles initially still tried to impose Judaism's demands on their converts. Paul clashed with his Jerusalem brethren because he refused to subject Gentile believers to these Jewish customs. The bestowal of the Spirit of truth was independent of any form, ceremony, holy place, or specific behavior by those who received its full manifestation. When the Spirit descended on those gathered in the upper room, they were simply sitting there, having just been in silent prayer. The Spirit was poured out both in the city and beyond. The apostles didn't need to retreat to remote places for years of meditation to receive the Spirit. Pentecost forever severed the notion that a specially favorable environment is needed for this gift. Pentecost, with its spiritual endowment, was meant to make Jesus' religion forever independent of physical force. The teachers of this new religion are now armed with spiritual weapons. They're equipped to conquer the world with boundless forgiveness, unmatched goodwill, and abundant love. They're ready to overcome evil with good, subdue hate with love, and destroy fear with a bold, living faith in truth. Jesus had already taught his followers that his religion is never passive. His disciples were to be active and positive in their merciful service and expressions of love. These believers no longer saw Yahweh as the Lord of hosts. They now viewed the eternal deity as God and Father of the Lord Jesus Christ. This was their progress. Even if they fell short to some extent in grasping the truth that God is also the spiritual father of every individual. Pentecost endowed mortals with the power to forgive personal injuries, remain gracious amid the worst injustice, stand unshaken in the face of terrifying danger, and defy the evil of hate and anger with fearless acts of love and patience. Before Pentecost, religion alone drove the God-seeking person forward. Since Pentecost, humanity still seeks God, but now the grace of God shines over the world. God also seeks humanity, and his Spirit longs to dwell within those he finds. Before the gift of Pentecost, women had little or no spiritual standing in existing religions. After Pentecost, women stood equal with men in the brotherhood of the kingdom. Among the 120 who received this gift of the Spirit were many women disciples, sharing these blessings equally with the male believers. Men could no longer claim sole rights to leading or serving in religious rites. The Pharisee might still thank God he wasn't born a woman, a leper, or a Gentile, but among Jesus' followers, women were forever freed from all religious discrimination based on gender. Pentecost erased all religious discrimination rooted in ethnicity, culture, social class, or gender bias. No wonder these believers in the new religion exclaimed, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." Both Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brother James were among the aforementioned 120 believers, receiving the outpoured Spirit. They didn't receive more of this good gift than others. No special favor was granted to Jesus' earthly family. Pentecost marked the end of special priesthoods and all superstition about sacred families. Before Pentecost, the apostles had given up much for Jesus, their homes, families, friends, worldly goods, and positions. On Pentecost, they gave themselves to God, and the Son responded by giving himself to humanity, sending his Spirit to dwell within people. This experience of losing themselves and finding the Spirit wasn't emotional. It was an act of intelligent surrender and unconditional devotion. Pentecost was a call to spiritual unity among gospel believers. When the Spirit descended on the disciples in Jerusalem, the same happened in Philadelphia, Alexandria, and wherever sincere believers dwelt. It was literally true that the multitude of believers were one in heart and soul. The religion of Jesus is the most powerful unifying force the world has ever known. Pentecost was also meant to reduce the arrogant self-assertion of nations and races. This spirit of self-preservation inevitably breeds tension, periodically erupting into destructive wars. Humanity can only achieve unity through a spiritual approach, and the Spirit of Truth is a universal world influence. The coming of the Spirit of Truth purifies the human heart, leading its recipient to pursue a life purpose sincerely aligned with God's will and the well-being of others. The material spirit of selfishness loses its grip under this new spiritual gift of selflessness. Pentecost signifies that Jesus has become the divine Son of living experience. When the joy of this outpoured spirit is consciously felt, it boosts health, stimulates the mind, and provides boundless energy for the soul. The prayer on Pentecost didn't bring the Spirit's arrival, but it greatly shaped the believer's individual capacity to receive it. Prayer doesn't move the divine heart to lavish gifts, but it often carves wider, deeper channels for those divine bestowals to flow into the heart and soul. That's why prayer is so vital. Through sincere prayer and unbroken worship with your Maker, doing His will becomes effortless.